So indeed, I'm Jesse Trecker. I'm a business developer at MaSTherCell. We are a CDMO, a contract development and manufacturing organization within the cell therapy field. And we have a keen expertise in immunotherapy, and that's where I will explain the field a little bit, what is going on, what is the buzz about CAR T cell therapy, what is that, and where can we see improvements, and what is MaSTherCell doing in this space. So, T-cell therapy, and I'm very grateful to the previous speaker to introduce T-cell therapy or CAR T therapy as taking the immune cells, the T-cells, from a patient or from a donor, genetically modifying them and re-injecting them into the patient for attacking the cancer. And there has been a huge buzz in all kind of media about this. It has gone so far that it has gone into the public media. So you have results coming presented by The Guardian. We're saying cancer researchers claim extraordinary results. It also goes in the BBC. CNN reported on this, and even local Belgian media, where I'm from, have been broadcasting immunotherapy as bringing amazing results. And to give you a little bit more an enthusiasm about this field, there has this picture been going around about Leyla Richards, who was diagnosed with leukemia, with ALL, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, 2 years ago. She was only 6 months old, yes, 6 months old, and after all conventional treatment was used for her, she actually redeveloped this leukemia, and there was no conventional treatment available for her. So at that point, the parents, together with the doctors from Great Osmond Street in London Hospital, turned to a new revolutionary experimental treatment, which was this allogeneic, so donor-derived CAR T immune therapy. And so after 6 months, Leyla went into complete remission. She's now 2 years old, and she's actually doing great. So these have been miraculous results within the immune T-cell therapy field. And this, of course, has been further scientifically shown by researchers all over the world. In the US, a lot of them. We have in Fred Hutchins Cancer Research Center in Seattle, where they have studies showing that 93% of the patients experience complete remission from cancers in this case. Actually, my data is a little bit outdated already, because currently there's a conference going on, the American Society for Clinical Oncology is going on, and so they're also portraying new results of CAR T cell therapy on patients with amazing results going forward. But actually, where the buzz started about this CAR T was actually a publication in 2014 in the New England Journal of Medicine, by Maud et al., where they showed also in the case of leukemia, using CAR T cells to treat this leukemia, these patients went from conventional treatment of only lower than 25% of complete remission, which is a sign for curing these patients, to 90% overall 6-month survival. For conventional therapies, 20% to 50% goes up to almost 80% of these therapies. So these are really amazing results and driving this field, and it actually has made this market, this cell therapy market, immune cell therapy market, very highly dynamic. So we've seen a big growth of this market, expanding 10 billion 2013, going up to expected 40 billion 2020. There are over 800 clinical trials going on in regenerative medicine, so this is always using cells to cure certain diseases. In the immune therapy field, we have more than 50, this is also increasing, companies working in this field, bringing new therapies to patients with clinical trials going on. And a recent race, as you can call it, that is going on, and maybe you have heard of, is a race between two companies, Novartis developing a CAR T and Kite Pharma developing also a CAR T, and they are hoping to reach regulatory approval, FDA approval, in 2017. So actually about a year ago, I read a market report which said that Novartis was going to, with their therapy, was going to go for FDA approval in 2019. So we're almost 1 year further, and this has been brought down to 2017. So this is a huge dynamic market. Everything is moving, and there's really a pressure to reach this market fast. There's really high pressure on that. Now, a different aspect of this CAR T therapy, so as I said, blood is taken from the patient, the immune cells, T cells are taken out, they are then genetically modified, they're expanded, they're prepared, and then re-injected into a patient, is a cost-consuming therapy. So we're looking at, because of the amazing results, it hasn't been a topic too much yet, but now it's becoming more and more a topic, where that these the costs for producing one of these therapies is in the order of magnitude like 50 to 100, this is an average of course, of $100,000 for treating one patient. You can here see a breakdown of where these costs are coming from. So there are a lot of raw materials of making this, facilities to produce these cells, they have to be produced in GMP facilities, and so there's a huge amount of investment going in there, and it's still a very labor-intensive therapy, so 20% of the cost is going in there. So it gets even more interesting where we have therapies, as I said, patient-derived, so cells pulled from the patient and then modified, re-injected to the patient, so-called patient-derived autologous therapies, where the cost for treating one person is in the range, as I said, even more, $150,000 for this. Now, to address these high costs, so there are companies working on not deriving it from patient, but deriving it from a donor, from a normal healthy person, modifying these cells so that they're not detected by the immune system of the patient, and then creating multiple samples or drugs from one donor, these so-called off-the-shelf products. And so there's Cellectis, which is a big company working together with Servier and with Pfizer, I have to add here, which is then bringing down the cost per patient to $15,000, which is more reasonable. So these are called, we're in the allogeneic space, where it's derived from a donor and not from the patient, which is autologous. So just to scope that there's a lot going on within this field, expensive, so we have to bring the costs down. We have, there's a lot of optimization of this production, and so there's a recent information came out from Juno Therapeutics, which is another big player, where they are cutting the production of these therapies down to 2 days, whereas in a normal phase it's almost 50 to 30 days. Sometimes it goes over 2 months to produce, to start from your raw materials and your cells and expand them up to a drug that you can inject. It can take up to 2 months. So there's a lot of drive. Juno comes out, now we can do it in 2 days. The whole market is changing, seeing what's going to happen with this. And you have, for instance, a big French pharma, Servier, which is working with this allogeneic T-cell therapy that is looking to develop and industrialize their manufacturing process. And then they turn to MaSTherCell, to us, to a CDMO. And that's where I'm getting on. There's a big need in this development for process development. And so if you combine those two aspects that I've mentioned, that I've built up here, where they have to go faster to the market, and we need process development, optimize this manufacturing, bring the cost down, make it scalable. You want to combine these, and you want to combine these in a CDMO. Where can you go faster to the market and do process development is as a CDMO. And the CDMO stands for contract development, the process development part, and the manufacturing, which is in the faster to the market of the organization. And that's what we do. That's where MaSTherCell comes in play. And just to give you a more scope of why would you be faster to the market if you work with a CDMO, I just here put in schemes that you have a cell therapy company, so they have their process to develop a cell, and then they have to be able to work with patients, take the cells, produce them, and then bring it to the clinic. But for doing that, you actually, in the whole process, you need to set up infrastructure. You have to have expertise. You have to have expert people who know the process. You need a whole quality system around the production so that you can track changes. You need to validate that. You have to train new people before you can go to production and into clinics. Now, at a CDMO, this is all already set up. So you can fast track towards the clinic to do your clinical trials, to get it up. You can fast track by working through, for instance, MaSTherCell or a CDMO in general, or a CMO, a contract manufacturing organization. So in general, what you will do if you work then, if you outsource this part, you will go faster, safer, more cost efficient. You will actually lower your risk of bringing these new experimental therapies towards the market. Now, if we come to the process development side, and this maybe is a very schematic approach here, but if you look at how can we optimize these processes, what do we look at? So there's a whole list of items you can optimize to make your process more robust. And so what you always will have to take into account, and this is expertise that is in a CDMO, is that everything has to be done according to good manufacturing practices. So this is a list from regulatory authority which is set out that you have to have quality system, you have to have backup systems all in place to be able to bring these therapies or to develop and produce these therapies to have a safe product and an efficacy product that goes into the patient. So you will look at, in your process, you will be using equipment, you will want to close that equipment. The raw materials that you are using, they have to be approved, they also have to be GMP certified. You have a whole step, you have automation that you can bring in. You have equipment that you're looking at, your quality control has to be optimized so that you don't use 50% of your product for your quality control, you only want to use 1%, so the rest remains for the patient. This all comes in. You want to have scalability when you then further on go into commercial, and you have to produce this not for 10 patients, but you have to produce this for thousands or 10,000s. And so if I then look at this process development, and now we're maybe getting into the topic that may be most of interest. We're looking now here at a process as a full process to produce allogeneic CAR T cells. And so what you will do, you can subdivide it actually in three. You will have cell preparation, you will then have cell growth, and then you will have purifications. And every step is then subdivided in different steps that you will produce. So really, your cells, a PBM, which is blood. So you will collect blood from a patient or from a donor. You will cryopreserve it. You will freeze it down. And this is normally done so that you can move it around. You can move it to your manufacturing facility. You can store it for a while. And then you will thaw your blood cells when they're ready to go into the cell growth phase. Here, we will have the T cells, which are most important, that will be activated. You will have T cell engineering, which is genetically modifying these cells so they attack your cancer cells. You have an expansion, so that you expand the engineered T cells, so you have sufficient for this therapy. And then you will go into concentration, cell selection, and depletion. And then you will do a fill and finish, which you will normally do. You will bottle them up, see that everything's good, send it over to the clinic, and inject it into the patient. And now, what we're looking at over time, what we're now getting at, is that there are several critical steps that really need optimization, that really need improvements to be able to scale this to a lot more patients. And so T-cell engineering, the genetic modification of these cells, is a very important point. The concentration of your cells to make it into small doses, and selection or depletion of certain cells, remove certain cells, is also very important. And I will just focus here for now, in time's sake, just on the concentration, what we at MaSTherCell are looking at for our clients, what we can do here. And the assumption of this T-cell concentration is that in a case study that we're working on, for these allogeneic CAR T cells, is that we have 30 to 50 billion cells that we have grown, that we have expanded, and we will have to bring them down from 5 to 10 liter cell suspensions down to 0.2 and 0.5. And so there are several tools available for doing this. You have the Hetish, you have your Safia from BioSafe, which is from GE. You have several that are available. However, there is still a gap here. There needs to be development in this side. We need to be able to go to large volume processing using a continuous flow so that you can continuously feed your cell expansion into the device, concentrate them when they come out, and go further. And of course, what you have to take into account here is that this continuous flow cell process does not affect your cells. You're looking at shear stresses that could activate your T cells and actually change your drug and actually not make it efficacy, or you have cell death coming in. So you have to look at that, and processing time. So the time that you process this, of course, processing time has to be limited because you're taking these cells out of their normal habitat with a lot of nutrients, and you're going to process them down. So you have to keep that in a short term. So these are just some to give you a little bit of feel what we're working with and what has to be optimized within the whole field of T-cell therapy and the whole production process that is going on there. And what you will, if you have a process and you're running it, you need new equipment that you will feed in. What you have to really look at, you have to of course look at the hardware, but you have to look at consumables that are used there. Is this all GMP available or disposable, which makes it easy for safety? Is there a support coming from the manufacturing? As the software that you use to modify, to handle the equipment or to draw data from it, is this compliant to regulatory, IP and price issues? That you have to look at, and you cannot look at only a short term, which solves my problem now, but you also have to look at the long term. Will this equipment still be available over 10 years or let's say 5 years, when I bring this therapy from my clinical trials into a commercial step? So those are a lot of things you have to think about, and that's where we at MaSTherCell help with you. This is just another message that we give to our clients that are working with us. When you have a whole long process and you're fitting in equipment at certain point of times, your most expensive and delicate equipment you want to use, you want to put these into points where you can process a product within a short time frame. I told you that these processes can be up to 20 to 30 days, 15 to 30 days. So if you have a very precious equipment that you feed in, into the process, and then it's actually locked for 30 days, you will only be able to produce one therapy over 30 days. Now, if you take this, if you see that you don't have that, you have cheap equipment that is used for your long expansion shape, then you can actually use your most expensive and delicate equipment in these phases where you only use it for 1 day, so that you can feed in a product 1 day, take it out, feed in a second product the next day. This is a mock act. And so it brings it actually down. What we look at is that each cell therapy product, of course, is different and requires a very specific manufacturing approach. You're looking at the cell type, the source, the cell culture, how you do the cell culture, which cell engineering, so the genetic modifications are you using, batch sizes you're looking at, and what's the future storage and logistics problems that you're working with. You will have to take that all into account when process developing your manufacturing process, and that's what we help our clients with at MaSTherCell. And so that kind of summarizes my talk on the CAR T, and I would just like to end with a small overview of MaSTherCell itself. So, as I said, we're a global and dynamic contract development and manufacturing organization. We work with cell therapy clients over the whole scale toward the patient. We take their process, we tech transfer it, and internalize it into our system, into our facilities, with our people. We can do process and assay development to optimize and scale your therapies. We can immediately go to manufacturing, so manufacturing batches for your clinical trial support. We have then the whole QC and quality assurance departments surrounding this. To have a compliant manufacturing or process development, and then also the logistics we have available to send your finalized products towards the patient. And so we're 100% dedicated to cell therapy, and so we're specializing, of course, looking towards the future and industrialization of your innovative cell therapy products. We are known on the market to be high in quality standards. Our QC and QA departments are known to be very good. Our process development skills are being acknowledged for, as we have some recent new clients, which I will quick mention later on. And we are also known for being agile manufacturing, so flexible towards our clients to go fast to manufacturing towards their clinical trials. We are part of a global CDMO network, so we are MaSTherCell. We are located in south of Brussels in Belgium, and then we have partnerships with an Asian CMO, which is Tcell, which is in Korea, and then we have AdVio, an Israeli CDMO, which is located in Haifa. And we will have a partnership coming in 2018 in the US. Just to touch on the services offered, so we have MaSTherCell and Tcell offering manufacturing for GMP manufacturing for cell therapies. We then have process development, which can be done in MaSTherCell in Belgium, and also in the AdVio site, in our Israeli site. We do process development here and also automation of your cell therapy manufacturing process. And then also viral production, which is important for your cell engineering, can also be done in our Israeli partner AdVio. Just to give you a small scope of our client base that we're working with. So if you look at the development from research to commercialization of a drug product, you will be running through development and then different phases. So every phase requires a specific approach, regulatory quality assurance approach. So that's where we are working with several clients, bridging this whole line from development phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And these companies we're working with is our expertise within adherent cells. And then in the immunotherapy, we have clients, we have Tcell working phase 2. We did develop for IMSIZE. We have a US-based customer working phase 1, phase 2, producing batches for the clinical manufacturing. And then AdaptImmune is also there. And then we're actually very happy and very excited actually about our development project going on with Servier, so the number 2 in France. And we just had a press release today actually that we are doing a development project together with CRISPR Therapeutics. So this is a company that is making allogeneic T-cell therapies, and they're using a genetic modification based on the CRISPR-Cas9, which is also a very new technology, creating looking at amazing results that they have within this field of T-cell therapy. So we're very excited about that. In our Belgian site, we're more than 80 people, young, dynamic, with senior management keeping us in place. So it's lots of fun. On the global network, we're approximately 150 people working on that. And so what we have achieved altogether is that we have our state-of-the-art facility in Gosselies, which is south of Brussels. We have our GMP certification and quality management system all up and running in place. We have 4 successful inspections and more coming next month, actually, by the Belgian health authorities, all successful. 10 and more already complete technology transfers with companies from EU, US, and Israel. And so because of our growth now, we're going to start extending our facility in Belgium to be able to accommodate more clients with more processes. And we're starting our business development in Asia with our collaboration with Tcell. And so with that, I want to finish my talk as an introduction to CDMO world, the CAR T-cell therapy, and to MaSTherCell. And I thank you for your attention.